on the solitary intoxication of love. In love, like the vast oceans, ocean currents begin to form in his heart when a person loves. Love causes warm waters to flow around a person's heart, similar to the ocean's warm water currents. To the extent that a person is carried away by these currents of love in his heart, he distances himself from negative feelings. He begins to learn to sacrifice and understand giving without expecting anything in return. Love makes a person experience the glory of being able to accompany the joyful songs of the person he loves, even if his heart is full of sorrow. Love surrounds a person like an enemy army when he least expects it. Just like after a war, one day, only dust and smoke remain from that glorious encounter. That is why love always has a revolutionary nature. Love turns a life that continues calmly like abandoned ports upside down, and what remains from that calm, silent life is a heart and a rebellious spirit that are as charming as the flag of rebellion. The noble heart that carries this flag is a whole of devotion, but far from the feeling of personal benefit. The feeling of love is one of the most substantial feelings of a person, even the strongest. Sometimes there is a sense of liberation, a sense of captivity, but always an effort to seek satisfaction that touches the depths of the soul, a state of intoxication where the mind is silent and the heart speaks. The feeling of love goes beyond logic and surrounds a person with a voice coming from the depths of the soul. True love is a loving existence in its purest form. Therefore, it is not an expectation but a surrender. Love is accepting loved ones as they are without trying to change them. It is the leaning of two souls on each other. Neither one is entirely dependent on the other, nor meaningful on its own. Two people attempt to exist together and become a whole. The completion of two people is the finding of oneself in the other. The feeling of love shows that another heart is the most beautiful cure for a wounded heart. Only the approach of another heart can relieve the pain of love. The pain of love is a pain that does not pass without being thrown into the arms of another heart full of love. Love is the greatest struggle of the soul, a feeling that kills the perception of time in a person. In the intoxication of the sense of love, a whole life is lived in a moment. When two hearts are together, it seems like a lifetime will fit into a moment. Love is a person finding and reproducing themselves in another. In love, a person discovers themselves in another, and this discovery creates a feeling of being whole. Love is a kind of existential struggle. In love, people either come to themselves or lose themselves. The implication is that they can never remain the person they were before. Love is always a fascinating beginning, but the real story emerges when the spell is broken. Its value is understood when the initial excitement or limerence ends. Falling in love is seeing the beloved other than he is, transforming him into something he is not. It is falling in love with that imaginary person who is free from all kinds of flaws and embodies everything beautiful in the lover's heart. Essentially, the feeling called love is, in a way, a person worshipping himself, a kind of narcissism. In other words, love deepens to the extent that the person can make himself the person in front of him, to the extent that he can create an image of himself in the opposite sex. The depth of a person's love is to the extent that he can see the person he is in love with beyond what he is, to the extent that he can idealize him, to the extent that he can recreate him with his own hands and design him according to himself. As love deepens, it becomes that much harder to describe the feelings about him. The difficulty in expressing love is that there are as many different forms of love as there are heads, thoughts, and hearts. If the person you love can hear your voice while being silent next to you, it means they have a heart suitable for love. Love is like a fire burning in a person's heart. If this fire is a candle flame, even a tiny breeze can extinguish it. If this fire is like a big fire, even big storms and hurricanes cannot extinguish it, and even increase its burning. The extinction of the fire of love is related to the fire's size, not the storm's intensity. After love, there remains both regret and a bitter taste. This feeling stems from that nothing is vulgar where there is love. Therefore, it is not love that is beautiful, but whatever one falls in love with is gorgeous. Love is a seal stamped on the human heart with 3 letters. Removing that seal without breaking the heart is impossible. Therefore, love is indispensable. Being in love with someone else is not experiencing all the beautiful feelings in their person. Still, love is essential because of the intoxication and completion of finding oneself in that person called the other. When a person loves someone, they understand that songs cannot say everything that can be said about love, and that words are not enough to describe love. When people love someone, they realize with astonishment that no matter how much they value the person they love, this is not enough. There is also an interesting fragile sense of narcissism in this feeling, For if a person does not value the person they love more than they should, they will think that they value themselves less than they deserve. Love is a mysterious, tender, wild experience, temporary and eternal. Speaking of love is walking on the fine line between wonder and despair, where words are often inadequate. As Rilke said, love is the solitude of two people who meet, protect, and greet each other. This is a paradox. It is a great paradox that something so fragile as this feeling has become the cornerstone of life. Love is simultaneously the most extraordinary longing and the most profound surrender. It is a source of inspiration for poets, a subject for philosophers, and a force that moves at the heart of existence. Aristotle claims that love consists of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. He sees love as an emotional attachment and the intertwining of two destinies. In this sense, love is a completion, an act of strengthening, an integration of the self through another. Opening oneself to vulnerability is a voluntary leap into the abyss. Love is the act of a person venturing towards re-existing in the body of another. When people fall in love, they feel tension even in their most intimate moments. They simultaneously experience the longing to be fully known and the fear that only full knowledge can solve the mystery that brings people together. The Dalai Lama says, "Love is the absence of judgment." In a world full of conditions and expectations, the purity of love lies in the ability to accept without the need for transformation. To fall in love with someone is to see them as something other than what they are. There is no other way to surrender to the reality of another being silently. As a person stumbles with the intoxication of love and tries to reshape the beloved in their image, they forget that the magic of love covers all kinds of flaws. Pablo Neruda wrote in his sonnets, "I love you without knowing how, when, or where you are." Cemal Süreya, on the other hand, has very successfully described the feeling of love based entirely on self-sacrifice in his poem, "From Afar I Love You." I love you from afar, without being able to smell you, without embracing you, without touching your face. I love you so far away, without holding your hand, without touching your heart, without getting lost in your eyes, defiance of these 3-day loves, not like a bum, but like a man. I love you so far away, without wiping the 2 tears that leak down your cheeks, without sharing your wildest laughter, without humming your favorite song together. I love you so far away, without breaking, without spilling, without breaking, without upsetting, without making you cry. I love you from afar, so far away. The poem's words summarize the mystery of love. They express its slipping from the grasp of reason and settling in the depths of the soul beyond explanation. The emotion of love cannot be governed by logic. It exists in the gap between what we can understand and feel. It defies time and space. It wants to exist both in the present and the eternal. Yet despite all its transcendence, love is also as human as possible. In his Symposium, Plato speaks of love as a form of divine madness, an eros that pushes a person toward beauty and truth. It is the caress of a hand, the meeting of eyes in a crowded room, the stories of shared silence. Love exists in the ethereal as well as the mundane. Love is a way of lingering in a conversation, a touch that says more than words can. In love, a person is ready for anything. He is prepared for every word, every lie, every mistake of the other party, but he is not prepared to hear just one accurate word, as in this poem. I heard that your love for me was as big as the world. I realized that the world was narrow. Come, tell lies, say I loved you. Even if you are leaving, say I came to you. Don't tell the truth one day. Don't say you are worthy of the hands. The power of love is not only in its grand gestures, but also in the quiet rhythm and continuity of everyday life. Love is born not through the eyes of expectation, but through the heart of understanding. The weight of love is not only in what it gives, but in what it demands. As Simone de Beauvoir said, to love someone is to accept that they are as real and as valuable as you. Love expects loved ones to remain as they are while everything else could be otherwise. This act of acceptance and deep seeing is perhaps the most difficult challenge. In love, one is ready to step outside the boundaries of one's desires and to accept the complete autonomy of another person. Love does not ask one to see the other's existence as an extension of one's own, but to honor it as a universe within oneself. Love is not a destination, but a journey full of joy, pain, longing, and discovery. Love is the essence of life itself in all its complexity. It is not to be understood, but to be lived, experienced, and valued with all its beautiful contradictions. Love is the intoxication of the human soul, a state where reason and passion collide and boundaries blur. When Nietzsche says, "Love is the moment when mortals come closest to gods," he draws attention to the exalting and at the same time blinding aspect of this intoxication. Plato says, "Love is the soul putting on wings," and that love isolates people from the material world and carries them to a sublime ideal. However, this ideal can also be an illusion. Love is the manifestation of desire, and therefore brings with it pain as well as happiness. Dante defines love as the power that moves the sun and other stars. The intoxication of love frees people from the weight of existence. It is like dancing on the edge of a cliff. Love is both salvation and captivity. Love often leaves behind irreparable wreckage. A person in love wants to shout, "I am not good, I am not good." He wants to pour out his heart, but the worry of who will understand you, what do you want to tell whom, causes the person to turn inward in pain.